locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke Loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is James Hebert from the J. Hebert Side podcast on YouTube.com, and you are tuning in to Duke Loves Rasslin.
Brothers and sisters, you know I love connecting with fantastic people out there. You know, if you're somebody who is not a humanoid, you're not a jellyback, you're not a jellyback humanoid bastard. If you're somebody who is top shelf, and you have sworn away the flavored malt beverage, if you're somebody who does not need to pull up your skinny jeans because you have embraced the top shelf life, then I got plenty of time for you. And, you know, we're going into our 9th year here at Duke Loves Rasslin, and I love bringing people on the show, not just wrestlers who are Hall of Famers and all that good stuff, not just astrophysicists and things like that. Not just wrestlers who are starting off in wrestling schools. I love other content creators. People who have something to talk about, people who can give different perspective. We don't always have to agree on topics, which that makes it kind of fun, especially if we disagree. But the main idea is the respect that I have for the community is something that I lead with here on Duke Loves Rasslin, and that's never going to stop. So with our next guest here, this is a brother who we just have such natural, open, honest, and dare I say, enjoyable conversation all the time. It's like, dude, we got to get this on the show because it's like we've known each other forever. And, there's a few other people I can say that about, like Danny G. You know, you folks have embraced Danny G and you love him. But I think our next guest here is right in the same boat. So, brother Hebert, welcome to Duke Loves Rasslin. How you doing here?
I'm doing well, man, and I'm glad we're finally able to make this happen. Especially with the eventful week that was within the internet wrestling community. I'm happy to be here, man. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I literally did a whole 4-hour breakdown PWT style to hype up that I'm going to be on here. So I'm really looking forward to this.
That's fun. Well, listen, I'm not going to make it easy for you. I'm going to warn you right now. Okay, No, please. Hey, listen. Let me ask you something. And I'm throwing this out of left field here. I knew a guy for years named Bert Hebert, and he was down in the Connecticut area. Are you related to that guy?
We might be, to be honest. We have relatives down in Louisiana that I didn't even know were relatives. So I mean, there's every chance that we have family everywhere. We used to go to a high school, and I had 2 women with the same last name as me. They could be related to me. I don't know, but they say we're not related. We just happen to have the same last name, which is crazy. It might just be a whole French Canadianism where Hebert is, translated as a bear in French.
Yeah.
So that might be why. But yeah, as far as I know, I have no relation to Bert.
Okay. Well, Bert Hebert, if you're listening out there, brother, I keep your name alive. Okay. I bring you up every Hebert that I meet. I ask them if they're related to you. So, and I'm going to be honest with you, James. He looks like you, so that's another reason why I'm asking.
Oh,
probably
hey, listen, there may be every possibility that might be the case. So there you go.
Man, you're a guy who keeps up with what's going on out there, which I appreciate, and that definitely adds to our different conversations that we have. You're very thoughtful about things, which I think is cool because a lot of people they shoot first and ask questions last. And you're a little bit more methodical about it. You make sure you have your facts straight, which I definitely respect. So let's start from the top here on something that I'm not completely in the loop on. Because we had our episode of Devon and the Duke where Devon completely ripped the dirt sheets and really Fightful in particular for their lack of professionalism and to this date, they still have not recanted the garbage that they reported on him. This goofball over there who, to even say his name is just to make him more famous. So I'm not going to say his name anymore. But the little goofball over there who was writing lies about Devon, and he's been caught making other mistakes because he's just a fool. He's a disgrace to the entire community. He's a disgrace to the wonderful nation of Ireland. So I'm sure folks can figure out who he is. And I just want him to know, because I know he listens to the show. Telling you to go to hell would be too much of a compliment. And I'm going to leave that at that. But anyway, in the vein of these dirt sheet goofs who continue to say and report things without getting their facts straight, and just how hurtful and ridiculous that can be, there was a situation that happened where Dirty Dutch Mantell, he almost lost his life. I mean, he was pretty sick. He and his wife, and I'm happy to say, according to Dutch, so we know that it's the truth. This is not a rumor. We get it from the source. According to Dutch, everybody's on the mend and everybody's doing much better than they were, which thank goodness for that. And let's hope that they continue to be that way. But Dutch had some strong words for Mr. Dave Meltzer, Juicy Juice as I call him. So let me know, Brother Hebert, what the hell was going on with Dutch Mantell and Dave Meltzer?
So I will add to your point with Devon to start this off, and good on him for it, because the dude who spread his name through the mud and just spread lies about him absolutely deserved it. And this is the same guy who's allowing Elbu of freaking wrestle purists to go on there and run amok about Monday Night Raw. So nothing surprises me anymore, even though WWE has been the hottest it's been in years. So what do I know? But what had happened with Dutch Mantell and James, well, specifically Dutch Mantell and James versus Meltzer in this case, was this. Basically, Dave reported on the thing. He was very, what I will say, for the first time in his entire calendar year, he was right about the health issues he was going under. So, that's a plus. But it was what he did after he reported on it that a lot of people said, dude, you know what? Go fuck yourself. Quite simply. And this was him defending the criticisms that were very lighthearted in nature. Like, there wasn't, like, Dutch Mantell is not known to be like this harsh critic like a Cornette is, or, a JD is. Like, he's not like that, right? But he treated him as if he was. And he just went off on this tirade about how, it's just another old wrestling head, talking about how AEW, is not real wrestling and they're past the times. Meanwhile, this dude is dying of sepsis. And you have the balls, Dave, to go and essentially attack a man who's not even there to defend himself at the time. Which is why they ended up doing, by the way, I think they did the podcast just to do it, because it lit a fire under Dutch's ass just so that way he could say that about Dave. That quote you just read, right? So that's the reason why Dutch said what he said about Dave. Because he just went way over the line. He got publicly condemned for it from every freaking publication at this point. Rightfully so, because it's just completely, it's indefensible. You can't say that about somebody. You can't just, especially, not for nothing, right? It's bad to say about somebody who's just trying to offer legitimate criticism anyway, right? But it's even worse when the dude is battling sepsis, you report on that, and then you have to do this weird defending of AEW. And James from WSI made a whole video. I encourage everybody to watch it if you haven't already. Completely breaking down how pathetic it is, how this dude, for the most part, for on the surface, if he's not getting a paycheck, it's really effing pathetic, because this makes the company look so bush league, because this is Tony Khan's best friend that he always calls, and this is the guy essentially representing him. And I think James said it best. He needs to cut Dave Meltzer off completely. If there is any hope of this company even coming back from the doldrums of irrelevancy that they've found themselves in, they need to start by cutting this dude off. because he is doing no favors, putting himself in the firing line by just aligning with the Observer. It's to the point where even his own co-host on most nights, Brian Alvarez, is sick of dealing with his guts, and you could tell. You could just tell in the face and the body language he doesn't want to be there, and a lot of it is stemmed from this over defending of AEW. A lot of it, and for people that are going to be like, and I've seen people already, like I've commented on the Punk thing, and they're like, well, people are just mad about the whole, this and that or whatever, and they don't like that they fired Punk, and that's why that's why they're attacking and fighting back. It's like, well, when you have all this nonsense go on within the AEW ecosphere, when it comes to their fans, when it comes to their wrestlers, when it comes to their dirt sheets that they have in their back pocket, I mean, fuck yeah. What else do you think is going to happen? Seriously. What else do you think is going to happen? So that's what essentially happened. He had basically he took an opportunity to discuss Dutch Mantel's legitimate sepsis issue that him and his wife are both fighting through right now. And, prayers to them, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit and all that. Like, seriously, God help those people. I hope they do well, because that sounds like a really rough thing to come back from, especially at their age. And Dave took an opportunity to throw digs at Dutch over his AEW takes when it was not fucking needed. And this, we shouldn't be surprised, because this is the same dirt sheet community that will throw Booker T every time out of the bus when he has something remotely negative to say about anything. But meanwhile, if you actually go through half of his freaking catalog, there are times where he talks positively about every company as well. So, nothing surprises me anymore with these people, but that definitely takes the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's too bad, because you have a guy like Meltzer who, in his own right, is an institution. What he was able to do with the wrestling newsletter concept is history. It's a big deal, and there's a lot of history within his newsletter that a lot of folks continue to reference back to, because it's probably the most complete telling of a lot of major events that have happened in pro wrestling over the past 30 plus years. So, I want to give the guy his flowers for that. But he's essentially turned himself into a caricature,
Yep.
and the worst kind. And it's, at first I thought it was a bit like, all right, this guy's just doing this to drum up interest, because, as much as love sells, hate sells even better. But I don't think that's what it is anymore. I think the guy truly is just completely off his rocker.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate, because at some point we got to start holding him accountable for the garbage that he does. I'll be honest with you. I go out of my way now to not even talk about the guy. You know what I mean? And for that reason, because it's like, you don't even deserve attention with the way that you've done such a piss poor job at reporting on things. Eric Bischoff has come on the show and pointed out the fact that, he knows people who have fed Dave Meltzer incorrect news, and they just laugh about it because Meltzer, like a fool, will run with it and put it out. And Bischoff has expanded upon that, and it has finally admitted that he himself has contributed to some of that fake news that Meltzer will put out just to mess with the guy. And we know that Meltzer's aware of this, because he's called people scumbags for doing it to him when he finds out it's fake and all that. But Dave, if you're not finding multiple sources for the nonsense that you put out there, then what does that say about your quality of work? You put out a newsletter consistently that's just full of run-on sentences and spelling mistakes and stuff like that. And look, man, I'm a guy who, I've tutored people with learning disabilities. You know what I mean? That's something that I've helped people who are failing end up with, honor roll and things like that. So I'm sensitive to that to a degree, but it's like, you're a grown man and you should be a professional. And at the very least, in this technological age, spell check is your friend and Grammarly is your friend. So the fact that you don't even respect your audience enough to do that is just insulting and embarrassing. So
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, to add to your point, not only is it insulting for him to do that, but he's setting a precedent as well that you can just run with anything and then not have to apologize for it after. When the right thing to do is if you get something wrong, you know, call a retraction and apologize, which Dave has never done in his entire career, which is why I think Bischoff, of all people, gives him the most shit because he's been doing it for years. According to Bischoff, also in a recent interview he did with James of WSI, he said, I gave him an in. He could have easily called me, could easily faxed me for comments of any kind, and he never did. Not even once. So this type of behavior was going on for years, even when people were defending him. And now it's just really kind of rearing its ugly head years later because, for years he's been talking about how the strong style and the Japanese style, they sell the most. And if you just focus on that, it would draw in the States. And we know that that's just not the case.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, man, I hope Dave finds a way to get himself together. You
Yep.
know what I mean? But hey, man, it is what it is. And look, he's raising the prices on his newsletter. He's having to make a lot of adjustments, which lets me know that business ain't doing too well right now.
Yep.
And you did it to yourself, Dave. So,
Yep.
you know,
100%. That's why guys like, Pro Wrestling Times are calling out everything you do when they should. Because this thing should be on public record at this point, and people should know the truth.
yeah, people should know the truth. I agree with that. Switching speeds here because something interesting happened, and I was glad that you weighed in on it because you took it to a whole other level when you did.
Yes.
Danhausen. You're already
Yes.
laughing. You know where we're going with this, brother.
Oh yeah. Unbelievable.
Danhausen, who look, Danhausen, he has this gimmick. People enjoy laughing at it.
Yep.
He acts like a I don't know what to call it. It's just it's a weird, it's goofy, it's pro wrestling.
He acts like a sped. Let's call it what it is.
Okay, well,
that's what it is, and I'm one of them, so I can say it.
There it is. So he acts like that, and look for me. So help me out with this, James, because for me, observing the character, that's what I always thought. I always thought that this is a modern version of the Eugene character that the WWE used to do, Nick Dinsmore would do, which was actually a homage to a big WWE fan that legitimately was special.
Yep.
And he was someone who loved wrestling. So they made the Eugene character as a nod to that person. That's a fact. So I always felt this Danhausen thing was just a modern version of that. So I was very surprised when recently on Twitter, somebody had pointed out, and they weren't necessarily nice about it, but they had pointed out that that's essentially what his character was. And Danhausen went on a tirade about racists and homophobes and all kinds of, and whether or not this guy and his content on his page, the other party, whether or not they fit into any of those categories, as far as I'm concerned, does not negate from the fact that the Danhausen character is a special character. This is a special needs person. This is what you're acting like. And I don't know the person behind the character, so I don't know if they actually are that way or not. But if they're not that way, then that means you are doing a parody of people who are that way. And Danhausen and his fans have had this visceral reaction to even suggest that that's what the character is. And I'm like, wait a second, are we trying not to be intellectually honest about this thing here? Are you trying to avoid admitting the thing because then you'll have to take a look at how you've been portraying the thing and possibly being insensitive with some of the ways you've been portraying the thing? Because here's, and I'm going to get to you in a second here, James, because you're the expert on this one, and I'm going to give you full reign. But here's my point on this. At least with the Eugene character, it was very clear that this was a good guy who was going up against mean bullies And even when the Eugene character was manipulated into becoming a heel,
Mm-hmm.
they were manipulated by a mean bully. I think Eric Bischoff actually was it. They
Yep.
were manipulated by a mean
He was
bully.
the uncle
He
of
was the uncle
Eugene.
who was
Yes.
having Eugene do these nefarious things, which
He's
happens in
Eugene
real life.
Bischoff. He's Eugene
Exactly.
Bischoff.
Which
Yes.
happens in real life, right?
Yep.
Folks can be led astray no matter who you are, but especially
Mm-hmm.
if you have deficiencies. So I always understood, and I think they did a very good job in making us understand what that was. And even when Eugene was a heel, you were still sympathetic to Eugene because you understood he wasn't doing this because he's a bad person. He was just being led by bad people.
Yep.
But this Danhausen character, I don't necessarily see them booked in that way per se. In
No.
fact, it's all parody. It's all nonsense. It's all and some of it is funny. It's pro wrestling. I get it. I understand the joke. But with fresh eyes, when you think about the fact that you're portraying a special needs person, brother,
Mm-hmm.
are you actually trying to sit here and have a problem with us saying it out loud?
Yeah.
Because then you have to actually answer the questions about how you've been portraying this character for what, the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years? So, James,
Yeah.
before you even get in on Danhausen, please again qualify. What is your connection to that community?
Well, my connection to that community is I'm full blown autistic, and I've met a lot of fans over the years that have some variation of special needs. Whether they have ADHD or autism, Down syndrome, whatever the case may be. I know plenty of people with those things. And what is so funny about him getting so butthurt about what this guy called him, which he didn't say this outright, but he basically called him a derogatory thing. I will say, looking at the tweet that he quote tweeted, he was a bit dickish about it, but the point is, he responded. Danhausen did with such vitriol to this and saying, "This is bad that you're doing this." I'm like, if I'm not offended by what this guy said, because I'm a fan of what you do as a goofy character, right? I don't even think he's taking the piss to special people. I don't think that's it at all. He did a goofy thing, and it just so happened that special people like myself and the friends that I associate with just resonated with his goofiness. That's all it was. And I think it just so happened that a lot of that community really enjoyed his character. So when he goes and just puts this guy on blast on social media because he called him what he called him, it's just absurd. And the quote tweet I think is I'll retweet it and pin it on my wall. If you guys want to see it, Hebert 95 on Twitter. The whole thing with Duke and everybody, including Danhausen, I'll have up there. But yeah, man, like it's just crazy to me that that was his response, because you would think you would know that, Dan. Like, brother, a lot of your fans that appreciated your character were of the special needs variety because they love goofy shit. I'm one of the fans that love goofy shit. You know what I mean? Like that was my point on the video that I posted on Twitter. If you guys haven't seen it, like I literally just embrace the syndrome, bro. Embrace the tism. That's what I said. I don't know why you're getting so offended by what one dude says on social media. And this is part of the general problem there, is that everybody is on social media. They're just allowed free willy on any app that they want to go to. I don't even care if it's Blue Sky, because let me tell you something, folks. When people in AEW go to Blue Sky, it's going to get just as toxic there, if it even lasts that long, just like it is on X. Fans criticize toxic. And don't get me wrong, there are some bad actors out there, right? Wrestling fan wise, you know, people call them out every day. Let the wrestling fans call those people out, right? And if the wrestlers got disparaged, they can also call them out. But feelings are a whole different animal. And now you put yourself in a position, Dan, where you didn't need to. You went after this guy for being bigoted when it comes to his special needs knowledge, when you yourself are portraying a goofy character that looks like he has special needs. So you tell me where any of us are off the mark on that. And I don't understand why you have to just be so upset about that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Just embrace it. That's your fan base, bro. And that's nothing to be ashamed about. Some of the most intelligent people have special needs, bro. So I don't know why you're not leaning into that and, you know, gaining those points with the community. That's what blows my mind about it. Instead, he has to go after this one fan because this is the Tony Khan metric of and the Dave Meltzer rhetoric, quite honestly, on Twitter, where they just have to respond to every little thing on social media. And it has plagued that AEW ecosphere. And as a result, the independents as well.
Well said. Well said. And I agree with you 100%. And I'll I'll say this. I think he's embarrassed
Yeah.
because, again, it's like, oh, they done figured something out that was never supposed to be spoken out loud. And so it really makes you wonder, well, what are you embarrassed about, Dan? This guy blocked me because I pointed it out that,
Yeah.
that was literally a textbook uh, assessment of that character and really the way that character portrays itself. If you look it up, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
you're carrying on exactly like how somebody with special needs would carry. These are characteristics that are consistent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Everybody has different degrees, but still, it's consistent. So, Dan, listen, block me, don't block me. I don't really care about that, but I will say you're making me realize that we're cutting pretty close to the bone here, and we're pretty close to the truth on this.
Yeah.
Well, you should be ashamed of yourself for being ashamed and being so worried that people are pointing out that your character is a special needs character.
When you don't even need to either. That's what's so absurd about it. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to be ashamed. Like, we're
Well,
okay with you, unless you're not on the spectrum and you weren't trying to do that, which is fair enough. You're just a goofy carny. Establish that at least. You know?
or or he's in retrospect he's embarrassed by some of the ways he's portrayed that character, which is portraying the community in its own roundabout way. So it could just be the guilt again. Like, well, wait a second. What if people cancel me because I
Yeah.
haven't necessarily portrayed this character in the most positive light all the time? So it's people are weird, man. People are weird no matter
Yeah.
what their challenges or problems are in life.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I think that the whole crop, and unfortunately there are a lot of them in AEW. It's like Tony is very good at collecting them. That whole crop of folks, they are so hyper sensitive about the things that they really have no business being hypersensitive about. And it reveals things that they probably didn't expect to be revealed. Like they tell on
Yeah.
themselves, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I
100%.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is definitely what happened with Danhausen. And my thing is, it's like, who cares what random people on the internet? He would not even be in this position if he just said nothing.
Imagine
Seriously.
that. Imagine that.
This is the problem, and this is a part of the wider problem in the Tony Khan space when it comes to how he acts on social media, and it has affected people's enjoyment of the product. And now, here we are, and it's even so bad that their own people in their locker room don't even want to come back to work on TV. When you got Kenny Omega, who has said the same thing now, and you could tell bullshit when you see it, with that was similar to Tony Storm and MJF and these other guys. It's simple when you see this. It just comes down as they rather be anywhere but in that shit show where they just cannot get off their effing phone. They gotta have Twitter fingers. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well said. Well said. I'll tell you. And I don't know, man. I look at things like even Tony Khan. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of the people who I have interacted with who know Tony, not just met Tony, but they know Tony. They can say, yes, I know this guy. I have this guy's phone number. I can call him right now. I know this guy. Or I've worked for this guy or worked with this guy. A lot of the people who I know who know Tony Khan all say the same thing. They believe he is part of the community as well. And it's hard not to see that with some of his behaviors.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that for all you humanoids out there. Oh my God. It's like people who are afraid to say black. Like, you know what I mean? You got folks who when they're talking about something and for some reason they have to give a racial descriptor.
Yep.
They always make sure they whisper, the black guy, they got to do the voice, the black guy, they're afraid to say the word black. We had to create a whole African American and all this other nonsense because for some reason the word black is offensive to them in their minds.
They made it up in their own head. Yeah,
they made it up in their own head. So in their mind, to identify me as a black man is like taboo because somewhere, somehow, that became a thing. Give me a break. You know what I mean? So the whole notion to say, hey, Tony Khan might be on the spectrum and there might be some other things going on there.
Yep.
I honestly feel that if we were all more open about discussing that would contribute to a lot more understanding of Tony and his behaviors, which would actually contribute to a lot less criticism.
Yep.
Because there's an explanation for why this guy is doing some of the things that he does that, at least to me, seem just off. Like, wait a second, bro. Why are you just said you were going to do A? Why are you doing Z? What's going on here?
Yep.
Where's the disconnect here?
Yep.
You know what I mean? But people don't want to have an intellectually honest conversation about that.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, they want to defend. But you can't defend something that doesn't make sense. Right?
No, you can't. No, you can't.
I don't know, like the whole hugging thing, where he every time he gives somebody a hug and he's closing his eyes and he's embracing them so tight, like this is the last time he's ever going to see this love of his life. What the hell's going on with that?
I mean, yeah, but you could tell it's special needs. I saw it from the moment I saw him doing stuff like that. It's like, clearly he's a little bit, challenged, which is fine. There's no issue with that. I have no issue with that. Just be honest about it.
That's it, bro. That's it, bro. Don't make everybody else a jerk for treating you like we're going to treat anybody who we see who behaves in a manner that, at the very least, we're going to say, hey, that seems unusual to me. Yep. That's not, that puzzle piece is not fitting in the spot that I would normally expect it to fit. What's going on here? Don't
bring up puzzle pieces with special needs folks, with Autism Speaks and that. I'm kidding.
Well, no, that's actually a good. Well, educate me on that. Is there an issue with the puzzle pieces?
Yeah, I just found this out last time, but I wanted the campaign to take the puzzle piece back, quite honestly, because I guess Autism Speaks is like, for years have kind of treated it like it's a disease that can be cured, when in reality it's like not.
No,
like once you have it, you have it.
Exactly.
And that's my biggest issue with Autism Speaks, like above anything, is that. And that's just my limited knowledge on the situation. If I were to look more in depth, I can probably point out other stuff that they've done, but I haven't, so I'm not going to pretend I do, unlike most people in the IWC sphere. But that's essentially where a lot of the crux comes in, is that they treat it like a disease. So they don't like that they use the autism, puzzle piece. They don't like it. So I'm like, why can't we just take that back? Instead we had to go with a figure 8. And I'm like, it's boring. I like the puzzle piece, damn it.
This is reminding me of the whole pray the gay away stuff, where again, you got people who are born the way that they're born. Yeah, and you think you can do something that's somehow going to make it disappear. And it's like, no. It doesn't work like that.
It's not even close to working that way. No.
Yeah.
But anyway,
look, Tony Khan, who is another one of my biggest fans because he can't stand me.
Join the club, buddy. We know he listens to all of us now. It's pretty obvious.
Exactly. In fact, you being on this show, if you weren't on his list before, you're going to be on it now, where it's like, F that guy. Hebert. Yep. F that guy. Every Hebert that ever walked the face of the earth. Listen, Tony, at this point, bro, I call it the way it is. I do feel like if there were more honesty about what the hell's going on with you, I think that that would absolutely modify the way that people perceive the things that you do, which some of these
Yep.
things are very unusual.
Yep.
So just food for thought. Now I know somebody's gonna cuss me out over even saying that out loud, but hey, I feel like Ric Flair. Fire me. I'm already fired. You know what I mean? Cancel me. I'm
Yeah.
already canceled. It's like what
Fire me.
else?
I'm already fired.
I'm already
True.
fired. What could
Yeah.
they do to me at this point, James, that they
Yeah.
haven't already tried? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just
100%. You're right. Yeah.
it just is what it is. Listen, what are you excited about going into 2025 in pro wrestling? Because we know that at least the WWE, and if the reports are true about the AEW deal, the amount of money that they got and what have you, we know that those two companies, AEW, WWE, they're going to be around for a long time.
Yep.
TNA is the engine that won't quit, so they seemingly are going to be around for much longer as well. What are you excited about for 2025 in pro wrestling?
I'm exciting. I'm excited definitely for more collab shows, and I feel like we need to definitely go back to and I feel like we're getting to that point where it's becoming a global territory system almost. And I'm really looking forward to the potential there, especially with the WWE ID programs and all that. I think wrestling is better when you work together than try to compete. I'm not saying you don't compete with each other, by the way, because competition is the best form of, you know, testing your iron, right? But you should definitely work together on top of that. Put a show together once a year, like I'm sure AEW and NXT are going to have a Worlds Collide event. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the Dynasty show, despite the whole Tony Converse being what it is. I'm really looking forward to those shows. Um, I'm looking forward to where we're going to be going, especially coming into Mania season, to see what kind of collabs we're going to get from that. Um, I'm enjoying the collaborative effort from everybody. Some do it better than others, I will say that, but I'm hoping that eventually that can all be rectified. To be fair, we were talking about how there's AEW guys that just can't get off Twitter. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Dax Harwood finally used Twitter in a positive light instead of just going and attacking JD from New York all the time. And he actually, posted when the next event is coming. I think they promoted that amphitheater show that they're running in January, because it's going to be in their neck of the woods. And I believe that may be the Fight for the Fallen show. I'm not sure, or it might be the week after that. But they're promoting their events finally, and they're using wrestlers in a positive light to actually promote their upcoming shows, which is good because Lord knows how long the community's been after that. So hopefully better collaborations, better effort on social media, and it's starting to see like we're slowly getting into that point where we're just not going to be taking this shit anymore, and if we do, we're going to call it out. And just enjoying wrestling on the screen for what it's supposed to be. And I'm hoping we're slowly getting back into that in 2025. And again, the collaborative effort I think is the most excited. I still temper my expectations because the wrestling industry can leave you jaded sometimes. But I'm really looking forward to War Games, for example. I'm really looking forward to what they're going to be doing for the Fifth Man story. There's a lot going on in wrestling right now. And if there's not something that isn't piquing your interest, then I don't know what you're doing in the fandom, honestly. You know?
I honestly feel like we're about to hit another peak
Yeah.
in pro wrestling where I feel like 2025 is going to be one of those years where we're going to look back and be like, man, we had it so good that year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? John Cena on his retirement tour. Goldberg's going to have his last match. I have it on good authority. There are a few other acts that are going to be doing their own retirement tours as well in the WWE and elsewhere. So I think that we're going to be spoiled with the closing of the story for a particular generation of wrestlers. And at the same time, we're going to see the emergence of Braun Breaker and Jada Parker
Yep.
and Trick Williams And all these other younger stars, they're going to step up and essentially take over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The mantle, which is really, really interesting. And then the people who are in the middle, like a Roman Reigns and what have you, hey, they don't have to carry the whole thing as much as they used to,
Yeah.
because we have
100%.
all these other younger stars coming up, and we have these older stars who are, pulling their weight as they close the chapter on their career. So 2025 is going to be an interesting year for wrestling that I think is only going to be positive, which thank goodness for that. We could use it,
Yeah,
you
for
know.
sure. Big time.
So listen, James, you're a great dude, man. I appreciate you. Why don't you let everybody know the best way they can keep up with you?
Amen, man. You guys can find me on youtube.com/JHebertSide95. That's also my Instagram and X handles. I'm also on Facebook if you want to add me there. I do promote my Facebook at James E. Van Hebert. My slogan is, I do really cool and dumb things on the internet. Little Muppet style there if you're a fan of the animal. I have my hand dipped into all sorts of things. I do a podcast with Jeff Meacham and JJ Williams called Saturday Shenanigans. Please go check that out if you haven't already. Tell them Jay Hebert Side 95 sent you. I'll be on this week. I'm sure we're going to be talking about a lot of these topics on that show, which, Duke, you are more than welcome to come on, even though it's going to be a late night show. It's always a late night show. And we got all sorts of stuff going on, in the Jay Hebert Studios soon, coming up in 2025. If you check my channel banner, that's going to be the show listings that will be on that channel. So if you're into gaming, if you're into wrestling, if you're into music, that's how I got my name on YouTube. Got a video that has Five Finger Death Punch with over 1 million views. And I also do a documentary. Gary Hebert, 1 in a Million. You could go to Gary Hebert on YouTube. You could also go to www.garyhebert.com and you will see the part 1 of the documentary. Part 2 is in production. So be on the lookout for those. And run that thing up, man. We got about 1.5K on that, and we haven't even done like proper promotion for that yet. So the natural growth on that is just crazy. And I'm really proud of that. It's probably my best piece of work editing wise. And, I've been doing YouTube and editing video wise for about, since 2008 in March. And, I'm been doing it for many, many years. So, I plan on keeping that going, and hope you guys join me for the ride. And, whenever you decide to join in. But, yeah, I pretty much have my hands dipped in, YouTube all over the place. So if you have a chance, check out my work. And that's pretty much it.
Great stuff. Listen, before I let you go, James, I got to ask the big question here, because you are a fellow masshole.
Yes, yes.
How do you take your steak and cheese sub?
I take my steak and cheese sub with real cheese and not that Cheese Whiz crap. That's simple as that, man. I don't know what these people are doing with the Cheese Whiz. Like, that's good, man. Like, I don't understand it. I think there's one place in Philly that doesn't use Cheese Whiz. Spot on for you to do that, by the way. So yeah, I wish we, I wish that Boston steak and cheese were the standard and not in New York and Philly. I don't know what they're doing, but Cheese Whiz ain't it, folks. That's pretty much it.
Strictly for the culture. Brothers and sisters, you have seen the t-shirts, the hats, the hoodies, the mugs in the hands of some of your favorite pro wrestling stars, podcasters, and influencers out there. And now it's time. Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca and you too can be part of the movement. Bigger than sweatshirts and commercial success, Strictly for the Culture aims to build with like-minded people and elevate their position in the world through knowledge, self-love, and a desire to unite. So what are you waiting on? Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca. Do it for the love. Do it for the knowledge. Most importantly, folks, do it strictly for the culture.
Mr. Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Rasslin.